What is going on, chat, man? We are back, and today we are reacting to the top 20 defenders in NBA history, man. Chat, this was highly anticipated and highly recommended, man. And let me be completely honest with you guys, bro. This is gonna be a crazy video because I already could tell, bro. When it's a top 20 defenders list, there might be some defenders that we think might have or should have, you know what I'm saying, made it, bro. I hope I see Wemby on this list, bro. I ain't gonna lie. But, with that being said, chat, if y'all new to the channel and enjoy this type of content, hit that subscribe button, man. Join the crew. But hey, let's get straight to it. Yes, sir.
Have you ever heard the old adage that they don't make them like they used to? Generally meant to refer to technology, possibly music, movies, or other things that came in generations and eras gone by. Well, you can make that same case about NBA players, and in particular, two-way players. You know, the elite, best of the best offensive forces that also were perennially very well-regarded contributors on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
Yet they have been basically extinct in recent years, though we do have another one of these unicorns roaming the earth in today's National Basketball Association in
Wembanyama. This guy is different, bro. This guy is a generational talent.
Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Hell, he may very well go on one day to be regarded as one of the best defensive players ever, since he has led the league in blocks for now all 3 seasons that he has been in the NBA. And even more outrageous, he did it in his 2nd season while playing in only 46 games total. This most recent season, he won the first ever unanimous Defensive Player of the Year award.
Unanimous.
And he did it while also
First ever. See, chat, look, that tells you a big thing. If bro's winning unanimous, like, Defensive Player of the Year is insane, bro. First time ever.
The youngest player to ever win that award. Forgetting the two-way player aspect of it all, though, in this video, I am exploring the best of the best on the defensive side of the floor only. Elite perimeter on-ball lockdown specialists, all-time rim protectors, and just the greatest defensive generals that have ever existed. And well, you will come to see that, yes, indeed, they just don't make them like they used to. And while many of these players are some of the best two-way players ever, that certainly wasn't a criteria or prerequisite to making this prestigious list, as offensive production or mastery on that side of the ball was not factored for or against anyone that ultimately did make this list. And while Wemby certainly is on the trajectory to one day land in the top 5 all-time on this list,
bro, Wemby's gonna be the best defender of all time, bro. I'm sorry, chat, but this guy, he can be the best defender ever, bro. Like I see it happening.
No one with only 3 years sample size has compiled the requisite resume to appear on this 20-player count. In fact, there are only 2 active players playing in the NBA today that made the cut in my estimation, but you will have to hang on until the very end of this video to see who made my top spot, as I am beginning at 20 and working my way up to 1. Oh, and speaking of those two-way players, one of the very best who has ever lived at number 20 is Kobe Bryant. And
damn!
Yes, I can
20? Kobe's a 20?
Already hear the tears of all of you Kobe haters ricocheting off of the floor, but Kobe Bryant is one of the most decorated defenders of all time. For starters, Kobe is still one of only 2 guards ever in NBA history to record at least 30 steals and 30 blocks in any single postseason run. In addition to that, Kobe also finished top 10 in League End Defensive Player of the Year voting 6 times. And that was while he has the 2nd most All-NBA defensive team selections in league history.
Okay.
His 12 total selections trail only Tim Duncan's 15 for the most ever in the NBA, while Kobe's 9 first-team selections are tied with Michael Jordan, Kevin Garnett, and Gary Payton for the most ever. Oh, and spoiler alert, you are going to hear those 3 names later on in this countdown.
Okay.
Next, though, at 19 is another guard, Sidney Moncrief, who is also the only guard ever to win Defensive Player of the Year more than once. He did it 2 times, back-to-back times in the 1983 and 84 NBA season, and that was in a span of time he made 4 consecutive All-NBA first-team selections. And coming in next at 18 on this list, a guy who never won Defensive Player of the Year, but still was one of the most decorated.
Bro, Scotty should have won it, bro. Like, bro, I feel bad because this guy was insane, bro.
Respected, probably one of the most feared players ever on that side of the ball. Yes, it's Michael Jordan's running mate, Scottie Pippen, who finished top 10 in year-end Defensive Player of the Year voting 9 times, which included 5 top 4 finishes, while being named to 10 All-NBA defensive honors, which included 8 first-team honors. He also led the league in steals during the 1994-95 season and boasts a career average of 2 steals per game and just under 1 block. Speaking of steals, though, the steals king checks in next at 17 on this list, Alvin Robertson, who has 5
Who's this?
top 5 Defensive Player of the Year finishes, which includes a first-place finish in the 1986 season, a year where he averaged a preposterous 3-point steals per game, which is still to this day the all-time single-season record. Speaking of records and steals as it pertains to Alvin Robertson, his 2.7 steals per game for a career is the all-time highest per-game average ever. And up next, a guy who might not be regarded as elite, but is one of the most decorated defenders in league history. Coming in at number 16 is Dwight Howard, who won the NBA Defensive Player of the Year award 3 times, making him...
He's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year champion? Why did I not know that?
Just one of 4 total players to win the award more than twice. Oh, and spoiler alert, every single one of those other 3 guys are on this list. But as for Howard, he won it 3 consecutive times, and that was in a span of time in the NBA, where he led the league in total rebounds 5 out of 6 seasons, and led the league in blocks 2 of those years. That was in a career where Dwight has racked up the 12th most defensive win shares ever. But how about the next guy checking in at the 15th spot on this list, who is actually 3rd all-time in defensive win shares, the Cap, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is actually just one of 6 players ever to record...
Kareem being that low seems crazy. It's going to be a crazy thing then.
Double-digit All-NBA defensive selections. Kareem ended his storied career with 11 All-NBA selections, which included 5 first-team honors. Jabbar is also 3rd all-time in rebounds and 3rd all-time in career blocks. So the captain makes this list despite never winning a Defensive Player of the Year award, but we have to keep in mind that award didn't come into existence until 1983 when Abdul-Jabbar was already 35 years of age. Speaking though of Defensive Player of the Year and checking in at the 14th spot, a guy who has been a punchline in recent years, Rudy Gobert, because yes, he is one of only 3 players ever to win that award 4 times. Tied for the most Defensive Player of the Year awards.
Bro, Rudy Gobert is not that nice at defense, bro, to win it 4 times, bro. I'm sorry, bro, but Rudy Gobert is not that nice to win it 4 times, bro.
League history. And yes, the other 2 are obviously on this list. Gobert, as recently as of this past season, was named All-NBA First Team Defense. He, in fact, has 8 such selections at the first team, which is as many or more than every other player in NBA history, except for Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Kevin Garnett, and Gary Payton. Oh, and speaking of the glove, he is up next at my 13th spot, Gary Payton.
Bro, this guy is not a better defender than Rudy Gobert, though. I'll be honest, bro. Come on. 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, though. I know that he's not that nice, but this guy is better. Gary Payton's a better defender than, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Dwight Howard? Bro, there's no way, bro.
Who is one of just 2 point guards ever to be named Defensive Player of the Year, and he did it while leading the league in steals during the 1996 season. That year was in the middle of a ridiculous run for the glove, where he finished top 5 in season-end Defensive Player of the Year voting 7 times. He is 5th all-time in steals, and again is tied with 3 others previously mentioned for the most total first-team honors at 9. But look, as elite as the glove was on the perimeter, I think the claw just edged him out. Thus, up next at number 12 overall on my list here is Kawhi Leonard, who has been plagued by injuries for the majority of his career, but when right, might have been the very best defender of his generation, especially on the perimeter. He led the league in steals 1 year in the midst of his back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards in 2015 and 2016, and he, of course, also won a Finals MVP for his work on LeBron James on the defensive side in 2014. And now we go from the claw to the Admiral, David Robinson, who only won 1 Defensive Player of the Year award, but finished runner-up 3 more times, and then had 5 more 4th or 5th place finishes. Robinson also sits 6th all-time in career blocks, 11th in career defensive win shares, and 4th in individual defensive rating. The Admiral just misses out on the top 10 all-time defenders for purposes of this list because, well, damn it, the big ticket was just that elite. And yes, coming in at number 10, Kevin Garnett, who boasts 10 top 10 Defensive Player of the Year finishes, which includes his win in 2008.
But did he ever win a Defensive Player of the Year, though? That's the question. Did Kevin Garnett win one?
Also led the league in rebounding 4 consecutive seasons, and again is one of those 4 guys tied with 9 first-team defensive selections, the most in NBA history. He is 7th all-time in defensive win shares and 19th in defensive rating. No doubt those figures are somewhat depreciated by the heinous ass he was surrounded by in Minnesota for the vast majority of his prime. Up next, though, and solidly into the top 10 now, the highest ranking guard on this list, and it should come as a surprise to absolutely no one, Michael
Jordan is that low on the list? We gotta see who's on this list then, bro.
Jeffrey Jordan, who led the NBA in steals 3 times during his career, is 3rd all-time in steals per game average with well over 2 per game for his career, and he is 4th overall on the career steals total board, despite playing a limited amount of games compared to the others on the upper regions of that list. Jordan, of course, also famously won the Defensive Player of the Year award in a season he led the league in scoring and also won league MVP. Now, Michael Jordan played over 53 games only 12 times in his career, and yet he still made 9 All-NBA first-team selections in those 12 seasons, tied for the most ever, again, along with Kobe, Garnett, and Gary Payton. All of which, those players we have already seen on this list. But up next at 8, a guy who shared a team famously with his airness, but who certainly did much more than that in the early stages of his career. And yes, of course, I'm talking about Dennis Rodman. This guy at only a...
So Dennis Rodman is not in the top 5? Bro, they gotta have some straight monsters if it's not... Like, if it's like that and Jordan's that low and Rodman's that low, we got to see street monsters, bro. Come on.
About 6'7", led the league in rebounding an impossible 7 consecutive times, including a ridiculous near 19 per game mark in 1992. That to go along with his 7 first-team defensive selections and back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards. And none of that can capture the intangibles as one of the most irritating players to play against ever, who was never shy about putting his body on the line to get a win. And up next, I'm sure that this will be a bit of a controversial selection, but I'm sorry, Mark Eaton deserves not only a spot on this list, but
who is this?
A very prominent one at that, and therefore the 7'4", 275-pounder checks in at number 7. He is one of the best defensive anchors and rim protectors ever. Arguably,
so he's like Wembanyama, but not Wembanyama.
The best ever. Hell, arguably a bit low on this list at just 7. Eaton finished top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year voting 5 times in a 7-year span,
bro,
while leading the
I gotta do my research because I never heard of him before.
NBA blocks 4 of those years, including a preposterous 5.6 blocks per game in 1985, which resulted in him winning Defensive Player of the Year honors, one of his 2 first-place depoy finishes. That is also, by the way, the most blocks per game in any single season in NBA history, while Eaton's 3.5 blocks per game are also #1 all-time for a career average in league history. But as decorated as Eaton was and as elite as he was at protecting the rim, there is no doubt that if they recorded blocks, and for that matter steals, back when Wilt Chamberlain roamed the earth in the 1960s and 70s, he would be by far and away the career leader in blocks. Alas, we will never officially know, since blocks didn't become an officially tracked stat until 1974, and Chamberlain retired in 1973. But there has been recently some unearthed unofficial numbers from a historian tracking all of the footage available in Chamberlain's final NBA season of 1972-73, when he blocked a reported 446 shots. That would have...
What? What? What'd you say?
Ranked second most ever, behind only one season by Mark Eaton when he recorded 456. That was in Wilt's final season at the age of 36, when he was pretty washed at the time. This guy likely averaged a triple-double for a decade straight, with points, rebounds, and blocks. Oh, and speaking of rebounds, he also boasts 23 per game averages for his career, which makes him the all-time NBA leader in that. Wilt, of course, played well before Defensive Player of the Year was a thing, and they didn't even start issuing all defensive teams until his age 32 season, but Wilt has compiled enough to rank him very highly on this list. Therefore, he
just dunked on Kareem.
Lands at number 6. But speaking of all-NBA defensive teams, the most decorated player ever is coming in next at my 5 spot. Yes, of course, it's Tim Duncan, who had a gaudy 15 overall defensive first or second team selections, 3 more than Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett, who are tied with the second most at 12. Duncan finished top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year 6 times, but criminally never won the award once in his storied career.
How does he not win that award, bro? That's so weird.
As one of the best and most impactful defenders to ever walk the earth. And 0 Defensive Player of the Years for Duncan is one of the most disgusting things I've ever personally heard of. It goes right up there with Kobe Bryant winning the MVP award only once. What Duncan does have, though, is 5 NBA championships as the centerpiece and anchor of his team's defense. He is 3rd all-time in individual defensive rating and 2nd all-time in career defensive win shares. 2nd behind only Bill Russell, who we haven't yet heard on this list, but again, spoiler alert, he is coming up. But, well, not yet, because checking in next at the 4th spot and the first entrant on my Mount Rushmore of defenders is Dikembe Mutombo.
Okay.
Mutombo, who led the league in blocked shots 4 times in his illustrious career, and he also led the league in rebounds twice. He is 2nd all-time on the career blocks list, while he finished an absurd 8 times in the top 3 for defensive.
So the Dikembe Mutombo was really like that at that time, man. Okay.
Player of the Year award, which included 4 first-place finishes, which is tied with the aforementioned Rudy Gobert and Ben Wallace for the most honors in league history. Oh, and speaking of Ben Wallace, he checks in next at the 3 spot on my list, Admittedly,
He
not
looked
as long of a
mad
career
blocking
as
that.
others on the list, but at his peak, he is likely the best or second best defender my eyes have ever seen over the last roughly 30
Bro,
years
he looks like he plays mad. Like, he looks like he's angry when he plays.
of NBA evaluation. He finished top 5 7 consecutive seasons for Defensive Player of the Year voting, while winning the award 4 times in a 5-year span. Wallace, at only about 6'9", was a hellacious defender, the best rim protector in the sport during his prime, who could step out and defend practically anyone on the perimeter. He sits currently at the 5th spot all-time in individual net defensive rating. But look, I did say he was the best or arguably second best defender I ever have seen. And that is, of course, because I am old enough to remember the Dream, Hakeem Olajuwon, who comes in at 2 on my list. Perhaps the greatest peak big ever. An absolute elite two-way player, still the only player.
Chat, do you guys think Hakeem is better than Shaq, bro? Like, do you guys actually think Hakeem is better than Shaq and all these other big men, bro?
NBA history to win MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Finals MVP all in the same season. He led the league in blocks 3 times, rebounds twice, and was named Defensive Player of the Year 2 times. He is currently 4th all-time in defensive win shares and sits 14th in rebounds, 10th all-time in steals, and he is the all-time career leader in blocks, nearly 600 above Dikembe Mutombo at 2nd. And look, I know this isn't a two-way player list, but Hakeem is the only guy in NBA history who sits top 15 all-time in scoring, rebounds, blocks, and steals. Just an absolutely preposterous career and the second best defender ever, in my humble opinion, behind only, yes, Bill Russell at number 1. And yes, I know.
Bro, how was Bill Russell number 1 though, chat? Like, we literally didn't even see him, bro. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I feel like Wembanyama should have been first, bro. Even though it's too early, bro. Wembanyama, chat. Wembanyama is a freak, bro. Bro, I don't know how, pause, bro, actually on that, major pause. But like, bro, he's so good at defense, bro. And this is 3rd season, and he won unanimous Defensive Player of the Year, bro. He's probably gonna win it for the next 10 years in a row, bro.
No, I know. He played in the 1950s and 60s, and therefore, well, we don't know how many blocks or steals he might have had. There was no Defensive Player of the Year award and no defensive first or second teams during that span of time that Russell played for. But what we do know, though, is that he was the leader and the defensive anchor of a team that won 11 titles in 13 years, including 8 consecutive.
That is true. That is true. You can never take that away, but sheesh.
His 133.6 career defensive win shares is a laughable 27.3 points better than Tim Duncan, who clocks in at 2nd on that list with just 106.3, which is actually much higher than Kareem and Hakeem, who are 3 and 4 on that list with just around 94 defensive win shares. So yeah, Bill Russell is still the GOAT defender that has ever existed. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think of the list, who was too high, too low, or who was snubbed off of the list altogether. And thanks as always for joining me here. Please.
Chat, I don't know. Some of these I don't fully agree on, but let me know down below what you guys think, man. Let me know. But, you know, this is the end of the video, man. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch y'all next time. Yes, sir.